A Lit in 10 discussion with Lisa M. Kendrick. The Darling by Anton Chekhov.
Anton Chekhov focused on the lives of ordinary people. He organized his stories around the unfolding of a character using subtle naturalistic style that marked a departure from the dominant literary styles of the 19th century. He was a freelance journalist. He wrote brief comic sketches for several newspapers, and he wrote short stories and plays. He's considered one of the fathers of modern short fiction and drama. Naturalism is an offshoot of realism and emerged in Europe during the 1870s. Naturalists depicted ordinary life, but from a pessimistic viewpoint. Elements include objective narration that conveys observations without judgments, characters who are driven by forces they cannot control, skepticism about traditional ideals and values, and the avoidance of conventional plot devices. The main character, Olga, marries Kukin, the owner of an amusement park, and absorbs all of his ideas. Kukin dies, but she later marries Postive, a timber merchant, and then adopts all of his ideas. When he dies, Olga becomes involved with Smirnin, an army veterinarian surgeon. She adopts everything that he values, and when he leaves his regiment, Olga is left alone. Years later, Smirnin returns with his young son, Sasha. When Olga's invalid father dies, she admits she has admiration for Kukin. He's the manager of the amusement park, and he is hysterical, melodramatic, and pretentious. But they marry. She sits in his box office, sees that everything in the park is in excellent order, keeps an account of the expenses, and pays the wages. They're inseparable, except for when he is away on business. While he is gone on a business trip, he dies unexpectedly. Olga is nicknamed the Darling by her neighbors and Kukin. She is pleasant, likable, compassionate, and attractive, but she's emotionally needy and inclined to love people too easily. She is symbolized by her house. When she is with someone, her house is well tended, but when she is alone, it falls into disrepair, as her own life and emotions do. Not long after Kukin, Olga meets and marries Postive. He's the manager of a timber yard, and in many ways he's the opposite of Kukin. He is grave and conservative. He's religious, and he considers entertainments like theaters and amusement parks to be reckless distractions. With Olga, he follows a strict routine that includes long work hours and church attendance. Yet they are happy together and, as with Kukin, inseparable. Postive catches a cold and never recovers. Olga is devastated when he dies, and she is rudderless. She eventually turns towards Smirnin, an army veterinarian surgeon who is stationed in town and lives in a cottage on her estate. She keeps him company, but he does not like her clinginess or her habit of regurgitating everything he says. Eventually, he leaves town with his regiment and says he will never return. But Smirnin does return after several years. He has left the army and plans to open his own practice in town. He returns with a wife and a 9-year-old son, Sasha. Olga offers them her house. She's so overjoyed to not be alone, and she moves into the cottage that is attached to the estate. Sasha's mother leaves to visit family and doesn't ever return. Smirnin begins traveling with work, so Olga becomes Sasha's main caregiver. She dotes on him just as she did her husband's, but Sasha is irritated by her devotion. She fears that Sasha's mother might return and try to take him, and she believes that Sasha is hers. It's hinted that her attention to him is extremely unhealthy. Olga meets a man and becomes totally immersed in his life, adopting his ideas as her own. This pattern suggests that Olga has no identity. Chekhov seems to view his character with derision for her falling in love with men that she barely knows. Olga fails to cultivate any of her own ideas. She remains dependent on others to give her life meaning and has trouble being alone with herself.
Thanks for stopping by. Nothing enhances cognitive abilities, increases vocabulary, or expands horizons more than reading. Be sure to check out my other videos in this Lit in 10 discussion series.